ya kuuza vitabu yafuatayo: Dar es Salaam, A Novel Idea, Slipway Msasani, Yacht Club Road, Msasani Peninsula, The Book Cave, Mbezi Rainbow, Social Club, Ara Museum Offices, Ikunda Bookshop, Kariakoo mtaa wa Mhunda, House of Wisdom, Mezzanine nambari 22, NHC House, Samora Avenue, Dar es Salaam, MacBooks and Brains, Mlimani City Mall, duka nambari 44, Dar es Salaam, TPH Books, barabara ya Samora, Elite Bookstore, Mbezi njia panda Goba, Mlimani Bookshop, Kariakoo mtaa wa Sikukuu na Lindi. Timiza malengo, Ubungo Kona, Chuo Kikuu. Bookmart Online Shop, Instagram, Bookmart TZ, Twitter, Bookmart1. Jamani Investment Limited, Nyerere Road, Airport Terminal 2. Shinyanga, Kahama Bookshop Center, mtaa wa Lumerezi. Arusha, Kase Bookstore, mtaa wa Sekei. A Novel Idea, TFA Center, Arusha Tanzania. Dodoma, Lugarawa Bookshop, Dodoma mjini, barabara ya 8. Moshi, Ape Bookshop, Moshi mjini. Christian Bookshop, Moshi mjini.
Wahi nakala yako sasa kwenye duka lolote lililopo karibu nawe.
In Capital News tonight, the National Assembly receives 2 resolutions. Protege refutes involvement in murder and theft during rebel attacks in Beni. Tanzania under-23 team loses 2-0 in Burundi. Good evening, this is Capital News at 9:30. My name is Vanessa Victor. Let's get started with the national news. The National Assembly of Tanzania has received 2 resolutions on the contract to prevent development, production and accumulation of biological weapons and poisons, its destruction, as well as the contract of African statistics. The Minister of Defense and National Service, Dr. Hussein Mwinyi, said the resolution prevents development, production and accumulation of biological weapons and poisons will assure the world that there is no worry that Tanzania may be involved in such acts. On his part, Minister of Finance and Planning, Dr. Philip Mpango, when reading out the resolution on the contract of African statistics, said that through this resolution, Tanzania will be able to actively take part in exchange of expertise in various fields related to statistics.
And helping another country or international community in creating or getting raw materials, poison, weapons and access in transporting those weapons. This has to be looked at very keenly to avoid getting cost to our country later on, if at all we will be found in creating or producing such weapons.
Moja na mkataba huu kutumika kama nyenzo ya muundo wa kisera.
Together with this contract used as a way of forming political views in Africa figure development, especially in creating, producing and overseeing of government figures, zone-wise and international-wise, and improve the figures of members' country by making sure all the right procedures are followed on.
The police force in Tabora region has been forced to use tear gas bombs to disperse residents who had begun to throw stones at Chemchemu Primary School area, claiming that some children have been abducted and leaders have just stayed silent.
We arrived at the incident area and found parents have gathered around the offices. There was a big chaos. They are threatening teachers not to come from their offices. And all this started after Standard 1 students leaving school and claiming they saw a vehicle leaving with 2 other kids, but after questioning them, some say they only heard but didn't actually see what happened. The kid who was questioned said he saw 2 children taken in a vehicle, but we didn't see anything. That if there are 2 children missing from Kichemichemi Primary School, and it's presumed they were taken by black vehicle, we would advise for their parents to show up so as to meet with the security board.
The commander of the operation to transport cashew nuts, Colonel Benjamin Kisinda, along with the managing director of the National Service, Colonel Rajab Mabere, have arrived in Lindi region to visit cashew nut processing factories in Tama and Boko and observe the environment in the factories.
As
the RC has said, this factory has stopped working for some time now. We need to do analysis and find out what is it we need to do to bring it up. When we talk of a factory, Suma JKT is a production house, which is under the Army of Tanzania people. We deal with industries, business, and we do constructions works. And following the motto of our president, in order to bring this factory back to its standard. We have 5 stores in our region, which can store up these cashew nuts. And the biggest one can store up to 15,000 tons, and the small one can store up to 3,000 tons. So today we have started this campaign because our fellows from the army are here. And they have 2 teams. The first one is led by General Kisinda, who will lead this cashew nut operation. And the second one is led by General Mabele. And both are here.
The Immigration Department of Kagera Region has carried out a special house-to-house search in Bukoba District Municipality. As a result, they've successfully captured a total of 17 illegal immigrants who entered the region from Burundi and Rwanda. The Immigration Department officer, Pendo Butenge, said that those illegal immigrants who are unable to speak Swahili will be subjected to thorough analytical questioning and then deported back to their home countries, and the other illegal immigrants will be taken to court.
We are looking for money. Once we get, we will go back since it's only fair. They're involved in farming. So we arrested them and checked those who we can get to court. And the rest, like women and children, will find a way to transport them back, since our laws don't support getting them to court under 18 years.
And a case to oppose the law governing the media sector that was opened at the Court of the East African Community has continued today at the court, with lawyers for both the plaintiff and the defense making their closing arguments before a verdict in this case is given. In the case number 2 of 2017, opened in January last year by plaintiffs, the Media Council of Tanzania, Tanzania Human Rights Defenders Coalition, and the Legal and Human Rights Center at the Court of the East African Community alleged that a very serious violation of the Constitution with the freedom of the community getting information is concerned. In the courtroom, a lawyer for the plaintiffs, Mr. Fulgence Masare from the LHRC, told the panel of 3 judges of the court, one of them Judge Monica Mugenyi, that the new media law in Tanzania will have extremely adverse effects on media houses, journalists, and the society as a whole. Ms. Alicia Mbuyu, who is representing the defendants, that is the government of Tanzania, told the court that the plaintiffs' arguments were simply baseless. She said that the government of Tanzania acknowledges the importance of freedom of the media sector in the country and that it respects the rights of all Tanzanians to get information, except that all freedoms have limits. With regards to the Minister for Information possessing the freedom and authority to give out punishments for an offense that he pleases, for instance, closing down a media house, the government of Tanzania's lawyer, Ms. Alicia Mbuyu, told the court that the minister's freedom and authority will have no adverse impacts on the media sector in the country, because even if the Minister of Information were to take the decision, many factors would still have to be taken into account before such a punishment is handed out. Following the contesting arguments made by lawyers from both sides, the judge Monica Mugenyi adjourned the case until the date of sentencing, which will be announced later. The Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Joseph Kakunda, has revoked the positions of the Director of the Board of Warehouse Licensing, Augustine Mburumi, and the Director of Industrial Development in the Ministry, Dr. Isaac Ligonda, directing the Permanent Secretary to appoint them to new positions due to his dissatisfaction with their performance.
First, I have decided to lessen responsibilities to Dr. Isaac Ligonda, Director of Industry Development, by removing his responsibilities as the Director. He will be assigned to other posts as an officer. I looked for him since the day before yesterday, but he was nowhere to be found. The second person is called Agustino Pulumbi. This was the second step in preparing the citizens to get paid, so all steps have been completed right now. We're just waiting for the big parties to prepare the basics like catalogs and invoices so that we also are satisfied, then we can start releasing the money. There were 17 factories, in which 8 of them are for arranging the cashew nuts, which are big factories. But we are saying out of which are operating the Microens Yawala, Agrofocus Nawala, it's a factory, but it's not working.
And Kisutu Resident Magistrate Court has directed the prosecution in a case which affects the former Chief Accountant of PCCB, Godfrey Gugai, and his co-accused to ensure that it brings 2 witnesses to court so that the case can proceed as planned. The court, via its Chief Resident Magistrate Thomas Simba, made that decision after the case hit a stumbling block due to the fact that a witness who was supposed to report to the court had an emergency and as a result was unable to go to court. On his part, the lawyer for the defense, Alex Mgongolwa, called for the identities of witnesses who are due to give testimony in the case to be made known. Furthermore, Mr. Alex Gongola added that when the prosecution sees that their planned witness has become otherwise engaged, they should look for another one in time. The case has been adjourned until November 27th and 28th, 2018. That is all for national news. International news follows next. International news. The Armed Forces of the Democratic Republic of Congo has refuted that it was involved in murder and taking of things belonging to citizens in Beni during rebel attacks by rebels thought to be ADF. The head of the operation in Beni, General Mbangu, stated that his aim is to ensure safety is restored in Beni.
People were claiming that it is the army that is stealing their gods and killing people. My time is not over yet, and before it does, peace must be restored. When I left the door open, the gods ran away from the compound. What is the job of the army? The people are having to protect themselves. What are they here for?
The European Union has detailed its intention to help Uganda properly invest in oil mining, which it expects to officially begin in 2021.
It is very much the role of the European partners to reduce the effects of oil drilling and to come up with projects to help this area.
The governor of Migori in Kenya, Okoth Obado, has been arrested after 8 guns were found in his residences after a search conducted in Migori and in Nairobi yesterday. 5 of the guns were recovered in his Lavington home and 3 others in his home in Migori County. The governor is facing 2 charges of murder. People from east of the Democratic Republic of Congo taking part in an international symposium on maternal health that is being held in Kigali, Rwanda, claim inability to reach all people who need health reports due to long-standing war ongoing in the country, with parents in Kenya accused of preventing their children from engaging in family planning.
Watoto ambao wanaishi kule kwenye sehemu za vita.
Children living in conflict areas are hard to reach because they cannot come out and be able to meet us, and we cannot go in to see them. I would like the government of DRC, despite of the conflict going on, for those responsible for adolescents' health to be allowed to access these areas, and security must also be provided. In our African culture, young people under 15 are not considered as a group that will go to the hospital for these items. But you find now there is a lot of teenage pregnancies, and some are infected with AIDS from an early age.
This week, Germany marks 100 years since German women were allowed to vote. Women won that right in Germany on November 12th in 1918. With me is Thomas Sparrow, Deutsche Welle correspondent, to discuss this further. Thomas, it has been a long history of women's suffrage, and Germany has been led by women for the past 13 years with Chancellor Angela Merkel at the helm. Are women now more represented in politics?
Well, that's a very important question. On the one hand, you, as you yourself said, have to consider the idea or the fact that Angela Merkel has led the country for a very long time, that she is not only incredibly important here in Germany, but also one of the leading female politicians in the world. She has in fact been chosen as one of the leading female politicians in the world on various occasions. And if you look at other German parties as well, many of them are either led or co-led by women. So that in itself is a very important development here in Germany. But that is not the whole story. There's also another side to the story, namely that Germany still has a lot to do when it comes to parity, when it comes to female representation in politics. In fact, if you look at statistics, in the recent federal elections that were held 1 year ago, the results showed that 30.9% of parliamentarians in Germany are women. That is a drop when you look at, for example, 2013 to 2017, that was around 37%. That is even a drop compared to 2009 and 2013, where it was around 33%. So you can see that there's a drop in the percentage of women in parliament, although on the other hand, while you clearly have some of the most visible leading politicians in the country are female, and in particular, obviously, Angela Merkel, the Chancellor.
Well, speaking about what you just said, 100 years later, but German politics still remains overwhelmingly male. Why is this?
They do remain male. It obviously has to do with the fact that more men tend to go into politics, that there are still certain problems when it comes to balancing work life and family life, in particular for women. There are still obviously issues when it comes to women, not only in politics but in other areas of public and political and business life. So there are indeed big challenges that German authorities have when it comes to ensuring that women can have the same chances as men, not only in politics but in other areas as well. If you compare this specifically in politics internationally, because I think that's an important exercise we can do, Germany is in the 46th position, number 46, when it comes to female representation in parliament. Number 1 is Rwanda, number 2 is Bolivia. And if you look at other countries around the world, you will see that, for example, Germany is behind various European countries that have a better percentage. If you look, for example, at Tanzania, Tanzania is in position 25. So again, if you look at this comparison internationally, where Germany is in the 46th position, you can clearly see that Germany still has a lot to do when it comes to female representation in politics.
So what are some of the ways that this change can be made?
If you look at the political parties here in Germany that have the best female representation, those are the Left Party and the Green Party, they have quotas. So quotas are one element that have been indeed put in practice in order to ensure that more women get into politics and maintain themselves in politics and can have a lasting impact there as well. But the issue of quotas is very controversial in Germany. Not all parties want to have quotas. Some of the leading female politicians have indeed been debating other, maybe legal mechanisms to try to ensure that more women can get into politics, and also that includes what I mentioned earlier, trying to find mechanisms that can help women balance their work life with their family life, in particular obviously raising children, trying to make sure that there are more opportunities not only for women who want to do that, but also, for example, for men who would like to stay at home if women want to work full-time in politics. Those are all developments that have been discussed here in Germany, by the way, not only here in Germany, but in other parts of Europe as well.
Well, Thomas, thank you very much for that insight. In this particular instance, Germany should be taking a page out of Tanzania's book then.
Thank you.
And that is all for international news. Do stay with us. We'll be back with business news after this break.
Watch Business Edition as we talk to business leaders and experts in sectors that are transforming Tanzania's economy.
To be rich, I have to be a business person.
It's not an easy road at all.
People need to understand. You must quickly think, how cost effective are you going to be?
Business acts as a way in which it can bridge that gap.
Business Edition will keep you informed on latest developments in the financial sector, extractive industry, tourism, agriculture, energy, construction, and so much more. Meet entrepreneurs who create employment opportunities. Watch Business Edition on Friday at 8:15 p.m.
Welcome back, and in business news. The director of Tanzania Railway Corporation, Masanja Kadogosa, has said that since the improvement of the corporation, passengers using railway transportation have increased, as well as cargo transportation, a situation that has led to added revenue for the corporation to 36 billion shillings in 2018, unlike in 2016-2017, which was only 23 billion shillings.
Of course, some issues with efficiency has to do with human error, but some leakage can also cause loss of revenue. For instance, for a train traveling to Kigoma, there are people along the way collecting revenue between 4 to 5 million in revenue. But after putting some controls in place, we are now able to collect up to 35 million.
The ambassador of South Korea to Tanzania, Song Geum-young, has advised the government that in order to reach an industrial economy, it must invest more in vocational education so as to gain officials with experience to run industries created in the country.
This is an important project for our country, especially now when we are moving towards building a Tanzania of industries and of middle income. This project will also reduce expertise gap. This project is based on technical, vocational and educational training. So stakeholders taking part include VETA, NACTE, as well as the private sector.
Over 18.7 tons of cotton seeds are expected to be distributed to farmers of 42 councils in 10 Lake and West Zone regions that plant the crop during this 2018-2019 agricultural season by the Tanzania Cotton Board.
This year already, the demand for seeds has exceeded that of last year. Last year we distributed 17,092 tons, and this carried on to January. Farmers are doubtful that they will get seeds. But as we speak right now, Simiyu, where there has been a lot of complaints, we've increased to 3,000 tons. We asked the government to look into pesticides and see if there is one that will meet our requirements, as some are not strong enough to kill pests.
That's all for business news. We'll be back with sports in just a bit.
Hi, my name is Kotaro Tokuda.
What's up? My name is Céline Garnier.
I'm John Barnes from Liverpool Football Club. The hip, hop, a hip it, the hip it, hip hop it. Don't stop the rockin' to the bang bang boogie. Say up, jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to beat. Now watch you here.
I'm watching Sports Gazette.
I'm watching Sport Gazette.
And you're watching Sports Gazette
with Sebastian.
With Sebastian. Peace out.
Yes! And you can also watch Sports Gazette for highlights and interviews regarding sports. Do not miss Sports Gazette every Wednesday at 7 p.m. only on Capital Television.
And on to sports. Tanzania's national under-23 football team has failed to perform well in its preliminary match in Burundi after losing 2-0. The match was played at Prince Louis Rwagasore Stadium in Bujumbura, with both teams on the offense, ending the game at halftime with a 0-0 score. At 64 minutes of the game, Burundi received a penalty, which was scored by Bimenyi Mana, Bonfils Caleb, and Bifusa Jocelyn scored the second goal for Burundi at 81 minutes. The mainland Premier League defending champions Simba Sports Club will play a friendly against Malawi side Nyasa Big Bullets on Friday as they prepare for their first Africa Champions League game against Babane Swallows of South Africa.
When we started the notion of a wide squad, it was not well understood. Now, I think it is starting to be understood, and we will prove that on Friday. We have a few players. Professor Patrick Osems confirmed to me yesterday that he has a proper squad to play any team.
The Freestyle Football Federation of Tanzania claims that they failed to bring former Barcelona and Brazil midfielder Ronaldinho Gaucho to Tanzania since the government was reluctant to provide an area for the construction of Ronaldinho's center.
The first thing that was needed was a ground, the second was his publicity, the third was to launch the game officially in Tanzania, and the fourth thing was for this country to be the center for selling his Gaucho products. The process was to be done mainly by the council and ministry, and they did not finalize, but we are still making follow-ups. We believe one day he will come.
Fulham have sacked manager Slaviša Jokanovic and replaced him with Claudio Ranieri, who guided Leicester to the Premier League title in 2016.
Jokanovic makes way with the Cottagers sitting bottom of the Premier League table with 5 points from 12 matches. 67-year-old Italian Ranieri has been given a multi-year contract by the Londoners. Making a change without having the right answer or succession plan was not an option, said Fulham chairman Shahid Khan. Khan said he and his son Tony Khan, the club's vice chairman and director of football operations, spoke with a number of potential candidates over the past.
Lewis Hamilton is questioned taking Formula One to new countries and would like to see more races in places with real racing history, such as Britain. Here is more on this story.
The newest addition to the Formula One calendar is Vietnam, which is due to host its first race in 2020. On the racing side, I don't know how important it is to go to new countries as such, the five-time champion said. If you had the Silverstone Grand Prix and the London Grand Prix, it would be pretty cool. In an interview with BBC Sport, Hamilton also spoke about his future in Formula One, his quest for self-development, and his dream of space travel.
And that sports item ends our news bulletin. On behalf of everyone who worked to prepare this bulletin for you, thank you for watching and have a good night.
What we're going to do today on the program is incorporating freshest, healthier juice options where you can indulge with them at home with the family and friends. And don't forget, these are things that are locally made from Tanzania.